This past weekend, President Trump announced that the United States has effectively taken control of Venezuela's oil operations following the removal of Nicolás Maduro, signaling a seismic shift in global energy and geopolitics. Venezuela technically holds the largest oil reserves in the world, about 303 billion barrels, but there's a major catch that most people completely miss. Let's get into it. So as you can see in this chart right here, Venezuela has 303 billion barrels of oil in reserve, 20% more than Saudi Arabia. So most of Venezuela's oil, however, is heavy crude, okay? This isn't your typical light, easy to pump oil. Heavy crude is thick, almost goo-like. It's extremely expensive to extract and far more difficult to refine. And here's where things get interesting. Texas and Louisiana just happen to host 6 of the largest crude refineries in the entire world. So that's not random. I think this is part of a much bigger strategy. As you can see in this picture right here, we have one in California, one in Illinois, and then obviously the 6 that we just talked about with Texas and Louisiana. So we need to highlight a historical production shift. So back in the early 2000s, Venezuela was an oil superpower, okay? They were producing nearly 3.3 million barrels per day, roughly 3 times more oil than the United States at the time. Fast forward to 2020 and Venezuela's production collapsed to around 900,000 barrels per day, while U.S. production surged past 5 million barrels per day. The reverse is critical. So if you look at crude oil production, this is from January 2000 to August 2019. You can see that in 2000, it was basically 3-1, okay, Venezuela outproducing Texas. And then there's happened to be just a shift right around 2012, 2013-ish. As you can see, Venezuela's production has remained relatively flat since 2002, while Texas's has skyrocketed, okay, overtaking them in 2013, 2014. And then obviously after 2017 and up, as you can see from this chart, basically Venezuela's plummeted while Texas's skyrocketed. Okay, so you're obviously asking yourself what happened. Well, sanctions happened. So years of U.S. sanctions left Venezuela with outdated, broken infrastructure. So heavy crude requires advanced extraction methods like steam injection, and without constant investment in technology, production falls apart. So light oil is easy, heavy oil is not. So if you take a look at this picture right here, you can see where all the major refineries, oil pipelines, and major oil fields are in the country of Venezuela. So if you look at Caracas, you can see just west of there's a refinery with an oil pipeline connecting it. There's a bunch of refineries and pipelines in the western part of the country. And then in the middle, you have this huge major oil field called the Orinoco Belt with 4 major refineries and pipelines connecting that. So here's a visual analogy. So why does heavy oil and light oil matter? So think of crude oil like a lineup of vials, which I'm going to show you right here. So on the far left, you've got heavy crude. This is thick, dark, and sticky. As you move to the right, the oil gets lighter, cleaner, and much easier to refine. The lighter the oil, the cheaper it is to produce. Heavy oil is the exact opposite, but that's exactly what the U.S. is built to handle. So here's the key point that most people miss. Why is Trump doing this? Why is the United States doing this? Is it for fighting narco-terrorism and drug dealers? Of course not. It's for oil. The United States has become deeply dependent on heavy crude oil. In 1980, only about 10 to 20% of U.S. crude oil imports were heavy crude. Today, roughly 70% of U.S. crude oil imports are heavy. The U.S. wants heavy oil, and Venezuela has billions of barrels of it. So if you look at this chart here, this is U.S. imports of oil by crude type. So the tan is light, the orangish brown is medium, and then black is heavy. And if you just look at comparing basically 40, 50 years ago in 1978 to now, you can see how much less light is being imported, how much less medium is being imported, and how much more heavy is being imported. So these are a lot of important dynamics. We're going to get into the next geopolitical dynamics. But before that, here's a word from today's sponsor, Telescope Innovations. Before we continue, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Telescope Innovations, ticker symbol TELIF on the OTC. On December 9th, 2025, a major event happened that barely made headlines but could be a game changer across pharma, chemicals, energy, and AI. Here's the problem they're solving. Developing a single drug today can take over 10 years, cost up to $900 million, and require as many as 30,000 experiments. A great chemist might run 5 experiments per week. Telescope's self-driving lab, which they call physical AI, can run the equivalent of a year or more of lab work in a single week, fully autonomously 24/7. This is not theoretical. They're already generating revenue. 15 of the top 20 pharmaceutical companies are clients, and their leadership includes Nobel Prize winners, 34 patents, and over 450 academic publications. Management estimates this platform could cut development time by 30% and potentially save up to $600 million per drug while extending high-margin patent life. They're also expanding into lithium processing with proprietary chemistry already trusted by companies like 3M and Standard Lithium. Telescope Innovations, ticker symbol TELIF on the OTC in the U.S., is available with Schwab Interactive Brokers, Fidelity, E-Trade, and many others. As always, this is not financial advice. Do your own research. Okay, so as promised, let's get into the important dynamics. This is Canada versus Venezuela. So look at U.S. crude oil imports over time. Canada's share surged from roughly 15% to about 60% of total U.S. imports. Meanwhile, Venezuelan imports to the U.S. have essentially stalled. So if the U.S. can restore Venezuelan heavy crude imports, it would be massively profitable and strategically powerful. Not just from this dynamic, but also from a geopolitical dynamic, which we're going to get into with different countries that Venezuela actually exports to. But before we get into that, let's take a look at this chart. So blue is U.S. imports from Venezuela of crude oil. You can see it started basically going down since 2005. And then if you look at U.S. imports from Canada of crude oil, that basically started going up in 04-05, basically at the same exact time. So this to me looks very strategic. So remember, as mentioned in the beginning of the video, Venezuela holds more oil than any country on earth, even more than Saudi Arabia. So I'll show you this chart again. So in fact, 20% more, which we talked about. So the oil exists. The problem isn't geology, it's control, infrastructure, and geopolitics. So this is where things escalate. So President Trump explicitly said that the large U.S. oil companies will go into Venezuela, spend billions of dollars fixing broken oil infrastructure, and start making money. So he also said that the United States will sell large amounts of oil pumped from Venezuela. So that's not subtle. That's a strategy announcement. So as I mentioned earlier, this move goes beyond profits, okay? It's geopolitical. Outside of Venezuela, Russia holds some of the largest heavy crude reserves in the world. So tapping Venezuela's heavy crude weakens Russia's influence in global energy markets. So energy obviously equals power. So if we look at the China angle, China is currently the largest buyer of Venezuelan oil. This is accounting for about 5% of China's annual imports. So oil imports, excuse me, not total imports. Trump even said the U.S. would sell some of this oil to China. That gives the United States leverage over energy flows, pricing, and geopolitics all at once. So again, if you think this was about drug dealers and cigar boats, come on, guys, let's grow up here. So it's all about geopolitical influence, and energy is obviously the most important thing, which I've done many videos on, especially the AI data center video. If you guys haven't seen that, go check that out. So if we take a look at this chart right here, you can see that flows are expected to reach the highest in almost 2 years in March. Okay, the source for this is shipping reports, vessel movements. Data for March is preliminary. But again, this is from Bloomberg. You can see that this is the highest since June of 2023. Now, what are we doing here? So this weekend's events in Venezuela could ripple across the global economy. This is the market implication part of the video. So energy markets, stocks, commodities, bonds, crypto, it's all going to react as the situation develops. This is a macro event, not just an oil headline. But if we look at this last chart right here, there's also natural gas, which is kind of the hidden bonus in all of this. So oil isn't the full story, okay? Venezuela also holds an estimated 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, much of it unexplored. So that adds another massive layer to the economic implications. So basically, you can see right here that this is areas open for gas exploration in yellow. You have the Cardin 4 project, you have the middle of the country, you have gas flaring in Monagas, and then a Dragon Field, and the source for this is the Venezuela Oil Ministry. So what do I think about all this? Removing a country's head of state and stepping into their energy infrastructure almost never goes the way that policymakers expect. I've seen this movie before. Okay, I've seen it in Libya. So when they removed Gaddafi, it didn't lead to stability. It led to civil war, open slave markets, fractured oil production. They haven't even recovered more than a decade later, 15 years later. Look at Iraq. The regime change destabilized the entire region, created power vacuums, years of insurgency, ultimately reshaped global energy markets through chaos, not control. And then also in Afghanistan, trillions of dollars 20 years later. And then what happened? Full reversal back to where things started. So the pattern is consistent. Yes, in the moment, removing leadership, it's easy. You go in there with Delta Force guys, which was kind of funny. You have these helicopters just hovering in the middle of Venezuela who has, air defense, all that stuff. And they just kind of went in there, put him in a Nike sweatsuit, and it was a good photo op. So I don't know if this was basically agreed upon under the table. But again, this is not a political channel. I'm not going to go into all that. All I'm trying to say is that energy infrastructure becomes a target after these puppet regimes are installed, which they will be in Venezuela as well. Then corruption rises, and instead of predictable oil flows, markets get volatility, risk premiums, long-term uncertainty. So from a macro perspective, regime change introduces tail risks. What are the second-order effects, third-order effects, fourth-order effects? So investors don't price energy purely on reserves in the ground. They price political stability, rule of law, operational continuity. So when those break down, oil is not going to get cheaper. It gets more expensive and more unpredictable. So while Venezuela's oil reserves are massive and the strategic temptation is obvious, that's why we did it. History suggests that forcefully reshaping another nation's leadership, it often creates more problems than it solves. So the question isn't whether the oil exists, it's whether stability can exist long enough to extract it efficiently. And if history is any guide, that's the real risk markets should be watching. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a prosperous day.